Living Corporate is brought to you by Canaries. Let me tell you about Canaries. Canaries is a tech company formed in 2018 by Black founders who experienced inequities in the corporate world like most of us in the workplace. They saw typical diversity initiatives, but knew that to create systemic change, diversity, equity, and inclusion needed to be done differently. They're still ahead of the curve, focusing on the E and the I using a data-driven approach. Think canary in the coal mine. The name is a nod to the canaries coal miners used to bring into mines to determine if the work environment was safe or undesirable. That's what they do for companies. They help you find the folks you need to listen to, the canaries, who will help you diagnose, measure, and attack your DEI challenges. Canaries has your back. Check them out at www.canaries.com/employer. That's www.kanarys.com/employer. What's up, y'all? It's Zach with Living Corporate, and I've talked about this a bit time to time in some of the dialogues we've had on Living Corporate over the past few years. The reality is that the diversity, equity, and inclusion space simply does not give enough focus and attention to its treatment, perspective, and experience of Black men in the workplace. Now, this is nuanced and challenging because Black men do benefit from the patriarchy. They do. Black men do not benefit from the patriarchy in the same ways or in the same degrees that white men do, or frankly any other men in the workplace do, but they do benefit. And this isn't to say that DEI should not continue to really focus and prioritize all Black women. It is to say that white supremacy does pit Black women and Black men against one another, right? And that's ironically a function of the patriarchy. Is like this scarcity mindset that only one of these groups can really be prioritized at any one point in time. And I'm really excited about the guest that we have today, Khambrel Ward. Cam is a tech leader in diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's doing some incredible things at LiveRamp. So I'm excited about having him on because we talk about not only the work that he's doing at LiveRamp, but also the work he's doing through his own organization called Black Men in Tech, and the conference that he's going to be having next month. But again, I want to be careful in saying that I don't believe that Black men should be prioritized ahead of or at the expense of Black and brown women. I do believe that there's plenty of space and opportunity to elevate and consider the mistreatment of Black men at work. It's interesting. They kind of just get erased. And I remember, I was talking to the leader of Zillow, the DEI leader of Zillow Group. And I asked him that question. I said, why are we not talking about Black men at work? Like, when you look at these DEI reports, like they will talk about Black women, right? Like those are growing narratives. You don't see that same level of effort around Black men at work. And even in me bringing this up, right? Like, I don't want anybody I know folks gonna be like, here he go. Men always making it about themselves. And I'm genuinely not aiming to, y'all. It's a nuance and it's a sensitive topic, I know. But you don't see that. You don't see that. And I'll say this too, is like, the reality is that so many Black men that I've worked with, right, and I've seen, they're not really here for like the collective liberation and upliftment of their people in the same way that Black women are. They're not. I mean, they're not. And that's a challenge, and that's disappointing. And I'll say, for me, in my experience at Living Corporate, the people that continue to support me the most are Black women. The people that continue to be the biggest disappointment are Black men. It's true, right? I mean, they're flaky. They don't get back to me. they're weirdly competitive and territorial. Whereas black women don't even know me and will just support Living Corporate, connect me. I mean, when you see these things that Living Corporate is doing and the ways that we're growing, that's because some black women gave me a shot. I mean, I could go on and on about just how critical they've been in my professional journey, in my personal journey, in Living Corporate's journey. So again, this is not to demean or dismiss the fact that those stories and those narratives, experiences need to be prioritized. I still believe they need to be, if there was an order of magnitude, they are number one. What I'm saying is that black men are not prioritized at all, right? When you look at like DEI efforts, like they're not explicitly called out in the same ways that black women are. And I find that curious. I really do. Anyway, before we get into this conversation where we talk about that and we talk about the future of DEI, you know, as we look at this season yet again, it's like we're continually looking at DEI and where it stands in corporate America as we look at the world around us. It just continues to be a focus. It continues to be a conversation. It continues to be something worthy of examining week after week. And I look forward to you all tapping in to this conversation. Speaking of tapping in, before we get into this conversation with Cam over at LiveRamp and Black Men in Tech, we're going to tap in with Tristan. See you in a second.
What's going on, Living Corporate? It's Tristan, back again to bring you another career tip. This week, I want to talk about some of the common outreach mistakes you might be making. Have you ever reached out to a recruiter, someone on LinkedIn, or just someone you want to connect with and they never responded? Believe me, I've been there. There's a couple of common mistakes that many of us make when we reach out that may be blocking us from our blessings. First, sending a generic message. I can almost guarantee that you don't like to receive generic messages, so why would you send one? Make sure that each message you send out is tailored to the person that you're reaching out to. This goes for both email and LinkedIn. The next mistake is asking for something in your initial email besides time. Outside of requesting 15 to 30 minutes of their time, you shouldn't be asking for a referral or to be considered for open roles. Instead, figure out where you can provide value and give your contact some time to get to know you, what challenges you're facing, and how they can assist. The final mistake is thinking that the purpose behind every connection is that the person will get you a job. If this is what you think, you're setting yourself up for failure. Your contact is going to think you're only trying to use them, and no one likes to feel used. Make sure you display genuine interest in the person, what they do, and the industry you're trying to go into. Remember, each interaction is a chance for you to gain information and insight that can help you tailor your resume, help you with answers in your interview, and even prepare you for conversations with other professionals within your industry. Landing the referral is just a bonus of developing genuine relationships. With unemployment levels being so high, that means the market is quite competitive. So networking is an even more vital part of your job search. Watch out for these mistakes and make some adjustments in your outreach to increase your chances of a response. This tip was brought to you by Tristan of Layfield Resume Consulting. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Layfield Resume, or connect with me, Tristan Layfield, on LinkedIn.
Living Corporate is brought to you by the Liberated Love Notes podcast, part of the Living Corporate Network. The Liberated Love Notes podcast is a starting point for integrating self and community affirmations into your daily practices. The Liberated Love Notes podcast center the experience of Black folks existing in white systems and speaks to overcoming imposter syndrome, disrupting injected and internalized forms of oppression, embodying an abundance mindset, and building a healthy racial identity. Check out Liberated Love Notes podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, hosted by Brittany Janae Harris. Khambrel, Big K,
Yo,
that man, what's going on, man? How you doing?
hey man, it's a beautiful day in paradise. Always, right?
Always.
Yeah.
So look, man, let's talk about it, right? Like you and I, we connected on Fishbowl. We were on a. All right. So why are you laughing?
Because, man, honestly, our Fishbowl connection was so divine, right? Because, we was on there with about 30 other people at the same time. And, you said everything I was thinking in the moment. So much that I had to reach out to you immediately and say, hey, we need to go deeper on this conversation. And I feel like that's what's important when brothers get on the line, in sync and in line with the diversity and inclusion and the mission and where we need to go, right? And I tell you, your words immediately, spoke to everything I was thinking. And I was like, that's someone I got to connect with.
Yeah.
So,
I appreciate. So this is the thing for the audience.
mhm.
A little bit more context is, we were on a conference call type of thing because everybody's trying to be Chatty House now. So everyone's getting
Right.
everybody's trying to be Chatty House. Everybody's trying to get that conference call feature. And look, cool, competition's a beautiful thing. Do your thing. But anyway, so we're on this thing, and somebody just said something like, we can't use race as a cop out or as an excuse, and
Mhm.
and so that's when I was like, and I was triggered, right? I
Mhm.
was upset, and so then I made some statements around, and it's because of the context, right? So we're all of us on the stage were Black folks in tech,
Mhm.
and then the
Mhm.
audience was a lot of like, white executives and stuff. And I was like,
Mhm.
whoa. I was like, we can't say that. Like that's
Nope.
irresponsible to say that. And so, yeah, I spoke my mind. And it wasn't like, crazy, but
Nope.
but I definitely know that it caught folks off guard because
Yes.
it caught
Yes,
folks
it
off
did.
because
Listen.
I got some text messages afterwards. They were
Oh
like,
man. Listen, like how that the gift is where you sitting there eating the popcorn in the chair. Like, man,
yes.
I was just sitting there like eating the popcorn, like looking around, like, oh man. But to your point, it was needed because it wasn't necessarily the context that the individual shared. It was more so the vantage point that they were looking at in that moment, right? In
In
the
that
room,
moment.
yeah, in the room that we were in, I understood what the individual was trying to say. It just wasn't the right room. That wasn't.
It wasn't the right
No.
room. It
Mm-mm.
was the wrong room and it was the wrong time. And I was like,
Yep.
and so I was like, man, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna talk about this space and this work on this
Hmm.
platform that has so many folks that aren't us who have the power to change
Exactly.
these systems. We need to be really intentional about that time and that space. So yeah, and it's interesting, Cam, because, and I've said this before, I don't meet a lot of Black men in the diversity, equity, inclusion space,
Yeah.
especially Black men like my age,
Hmm.
or like
Hmm.
or even I'm more to the point, like Black men at the same stage of life I'm at, right? So even if we're not the
Right.
same age, like we're both we both have kids, like we're both
Yep.
like young kids trying to figure it out, doing what we do.
Exactly.
So it's that's a unique space. So let's talk about your career and just how you got into the DEI work, and what got you there, and then what's keeping you there right now.
Yeah. So, transparently, like, earlier in my life, I was fortunate to be raised by my mom and my grandmother, and I didn't have anybody really telling me about the talk, right? The man, and we know the talk, right? The talk on the interaction with law enforcement and how to act and how to respond. So because I was lacking that talk, I had an unfortunate run-in with law enforcement while in high school at the football practice where I was actually dropping a friend off home. And that negative experience put me in a space where I wanted to learn more, right? It actually fueled my fire for diversity because all the officers look like me, right? And it was a ton of officers. I spent some time in handcuffs on the sidewalk while they asked me questions about if I was the individual that was robbing the neighborhood that I was in. But I wanted to know, like, what about me, right? That set the stage for law enforcement to treat me as if I was already right, the individual that was committing the crimes. Because of that, it fueled my fire to want to get into the diversity work. Because think about it, Zach, bro, like we can't change our color. We can't change who we are.
Right.
We can't change our physical being, right? We are who we are. We are Black men. So I couldn't do nothing about that. So I decided to learn more. So I went to University of Florida, studied family, youth, and development, family sciences. I went to University of Maryland. I studied minority and urban education for a master's program, and I really wanted to dig deep. Right. A lot of people like to go wide and try to do everything. I wanted to go deep and be an expert, not even an expert, a subject matter expert in what this is, diversity and inclusion. A lot of people are really passionate about it, but passion don't transfer into purpose.
Come on
You
now.
know, so your passion only gonna get you so far. Passion is an emotion, right? That is triggered by something. So you could be passionate in the moment, and then 3 days later, it doesn't matter anymore to you.
Right.
I wanted to treat it as a research discipline, right? So I started out in higher education, did that for a few years, rose to a level where I was a director at a young age. Like I was a director at a school over 10,000 students, and then I made the switch into the corporate space as a program manager. And now, a few years down the line, I'm the head of, right? Still very young, but you know, it was the purpose of how I made the transition and continue to excel, in my opinion, in this field, and not just passion. Passion is a must. Purpose is needed. Right, purpose is needed to get to that level. So that's how I
Yeah.
got into space, man. And that's why it's so important for me, because I feel it for everyone. I don't just feel it for black men. I feel it for our Asian brothers and sisters that's in the fight, our LGBTQA individuals that's in the fight. Like, underrepresented mean underrepresented for all, not for one, right? You can't get so focused on the tree that you miss the forest. And the tree is focusing on just your space and your underrepresented group. We got to care about it all to be, in my opinion, successful at our work. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, that's how I got into it, and that's what keeps me here, man. Keep you fired up about it.
Well, first of all, shout out to you. And 100%, it's funny. I was talking to a dear colleague of mine and a mentor as well about that last piece, which is like this, that individualism and equity don't mix, right?
Exactly.
Right. So yes, like it's important to respect and appreciate the unique experiences and challenges of any marginalized people group.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're not
Mm-hmm.
being intersectional in our analysis, in our praxis,
Right.
then we're not going to succeed, right? And so, and that's where and you said something else that's incredible. I agree. Is like
Right.
being a student of the space. I think a lot of folks treat this work like a really cool hobby, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
like somebody who like really likes wine, or
Mm-hmm.
someone who really likes whatever, right? It's like, oh yeah, like it's like a hobby. It's like something you really like, but you pick it down and you put it down, you pick it up when you want to.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, like around being a student, it's important to study American history at the very least. If you're in America, you're gonna be doing this work because there's no one group in their struggle for independence or recognition as human as equal citizens in this nation, or just as human beings, that did not have to interact with some other marginalized group and coordinate with them in some way, right? Like
Right.
that's true for every marginalized group. Not only that, but there is no one group that is only just that group, right? You think
Right.
about, like, so Pride is a great example. We're coming up on it again here really soon. And look, man, it's not just white folks who are queer.
Come on.
And like
Come on.
you want to talk about the history of Pride and like all of the work and how it wouldn't even been possible without a trans black woman. How wouldn't have, and how
Yep.
we wouldn't have civil,
Stonewall.
right?
Right. Yep.
We wouldn't have civil rights
Yep.
without the work of queer black men and women. Like we wouldn't have. So like what does that really mean to like even see yourself so individually? Like that's a certain function of white supremacy, as well as like this idea of just like, I'm just in it for me. Like this is just for me. I'm gonna get mine and collect my power. But
You hit on something absolutely amazing, and something that often try to impart on individuals is that the thing about oppression and supremacy, more so oppression, is that the individuals that has the power. Now, let me be clear. There's more than just white male privilege power. Everybody has power and privilege. You just got to find out where you have power and privilege. And most time, underrepresented individuals have power and privilege in places where we cannot change the systematic. We cannot change the way the system works, right? So you walk into our barbershops, me and Zach got power. We might not have the hair on our head, but we still can have the conversation needed, right? That doesn't change the system, right? So when we talk about power and privilege, you got to understand that the way it works is that you just talk about just not individuals of majority have the power and privilege, but they do control the narrative, right? And that's an important thing because for me, um, about oppression is that you make things comfortable for you. So on Pride Month, if all you see is individuals of the majority, the white male, white female picture, and you automatically assume that, oh, okay, cool, this is, everybody that is a part of LGBTQ community and doing something amazing has to be white because the narrative is controlled by the individuals in power that's able to change the system,
Right.
right? So you make things comfortable for you, right? And that's something that I realize in undergrad is that people make things comfortable for them in order for it to work in their favor. For example, right? My sophomore year in college, I worked at Victoria's Secret, right? Really cool job. I was in the back. I was a restocker of the fragrances. I asked my leader, "Hey, can I go on the floor?" And she was like, "Well, no male ever asked me to go on the floor, but I'm gonna put you in a beauty room, right?" I killed it the entire summer in a beauty room. Sold a 5 for 30. A 6 for 30, I think it was at the time.
Yeah.
Had the all the different fragrances going. I had the lip overs going. Because they just came out with the lip gloss. I was winning, right? Angel card, I was a top seller. At the end of the summer, as I was getting ready to go back to school, the one of the associates says, "Cam, you know why people are comfortable with you?" And I go, "Why? Because I'm good at my job." She go, "No, because they think you're gay." And I go,
Mm.
"Nobody ever asked me." And at that moment, I realized it was uncommon to see a big black man with a bald head working in a beauty room at Victoria's Secret. So, in order to be comfortable with something that they didn't, it was foreign to them. In order, they changed who I was, or made up someone of who I was in order to interact with me and make people feel okay to do that.
Man, and that's interesting because we do often think in contexts that are directly beneficial or impactful to us.
Yes, yes,
So let's do this. I want to learn more about the work that you're doing now because you have a lot of stuff going on, right? Like you have,
yeah.
so you're at LiveRamp. You also have your own organization. Like, let's talk about just like what's in your atmosphere right now, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so that's a perfect question. So, uh, my day job at LiveRamp, and I call it my day job because I have like you just said, I have multiple things going on at the same time. But at LiveRamp, I am the head of DIB, Diversity and Inclusion and Belonging. And what we're doing right now is that we're it's kind of cutting edge, kind of edgy a little bit, but we created a operating model, right, for the next 5 years called our 5 year commitments that's going to be shared externally in May. And the thought process when I created this operating model is that I wanted to remove the data. Now, I know some listeners will be like, well, what? I wanted to remove the data from the front part of the conversation and put it towards the back end. All right. Because think about it. When we think about, in my opinion, when we think about data and data, we think about the moving chess pieces, right? And then we treat data points as if a marker to say, hey, we need to get to this 5%. We need to get to this 10%. And at some point, when you're dealing with hearts and minds and humans, which we do in diversity and inclusion belonging, we start treating people like tokens and not like people. My whole goal is to treat people like people. So I removed the data from the top of the conversations into the back end of the conversations and created these aspirational targets that we want to hit. If we hit these aspirational targets, then the data is going to hold us accountable and the data is going to verify the work we already done. Think about it. When companies put goals and tie them to structures and stuff like that, and some companies that work out for, people start to do humanistically things unnatural to reach those goals. We can name a company like Wells, right, that were put in some really awkward situations because they had to meet a goal. So if I go tell you we need 30% more black people, what do you think hiring managers going to do? They're no longer hiring the best candidate. They're hiring the first black person,
Right. Right.
right? But if I turn around and tell you, okay, so we want to create pipelines where we have diverse candidate slates, where I say if we're doing a candidate slate for engineer role, we do 20% referrals, right? 20% from NSBE, 20% from HBCUs, 20% from uh, uh, HSI, Hispanic Serving Institution. We still got a diverse candidate slate, 20% of women, right? From Grace Hopper or something like that. We still got a very diverse candidate slate, but it's not one person.
Right.
Right? We're not targeting one person. So that's what I'm doing at LiveRamp now. And the team is very receptive because they understand the goal which we're trying to get and they understand the strategy behind it.
That sounds so profound. And it's funny because, and I've given this feedback before, like to some other folks, as you just come and go, you talk to all types of people, but like
Right.
folks, they actually pick your brain, whatever. But I told some folks about a year ago now, I said, if we would apply the same level of like business rigor to this space that we
Mm-hmm.
do to other spaces,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't have the challenges that we have.
Talk about it.
Because like you're 100% right. Like this is it's a people business, it's people work. And yet, when you think even think about like the principles of change management, like we don't even think of DIB as like an offshoot or under or in
Mm-hmm.
coordination with change management. But there's
Right.
all these principles that you're talking about. They exist in change management, and yet
Yes.
folks don't connect those dots because we don't really prioritize it in the same ways. Because it kind of goes back to what we were saying at the top, which is folks kind of treat this like a hobby. So I agree
Right.
with you. And to your point, we do talk a lot about data, but then it's still not strategically integrated into the work, right? And there are folks out there who will be like, oh, well, I've been doing this for years. And like, there's some orgs out there that have created all sorts of like tools, analytics
Right.
tools. And yet they've yet to really get the penetration in these spaces, because if they had the penetration in these spaces like they should, then we wouldn't have some of the data challenges that we have. Right.
Right.
Like, and so
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. Like when I hear you, like I hear that, like that's exciting to me. We had Michael C. Bush on, I guess about a year ago, so a little while ago.
Nice.
And we were talking about, and I appreciate that. That wasn't a flex. I'm going somewhere. I'm not trying to being tacky.
No, listen, I'm with it. Hey, listen, that's a good brother. Now I'm with it. So that's
He is cold. He is cold. Yeah, yo, shout out, Mike.
Hey, listen, I'm trying to meet that guy. I'm trying to sit down and have a conversation with him. You know what I mean?
He is a beast.
That's what I'm trying to.
I'm trying. I need to hit him back because
easy. That's what we do, man. We just support. Hey, listen, I'm trying to just sit down and just talk to the man. Like
he is brilliant. He is brilliant. So
I'm sorry, man. We got off on a tangent, man.
No, it's cool. It's cool. So, so I'm talking to him, and he's just emphasizing that the next 10 years, like the future, right? 2030 is going to look, by 2030, data and DE, it's just going to be a completely different space and world, right? Like when you look at Korn Ferry and the recent partnership they announced with Qualtrics,
Mm-hmm.
right? And really trying to coordinate and integrate data in all of their people work. It's just going to be different, man. And so my point is that I'm just excited about the future, and I'm excited that there's folks like you out there really doing the work. Okay, so that's LiveRamp. That's cool. I know we could talk about that forever.
Yeah, we could go. We could go.
We could go. But let's talk about the things you're doing outside of LiveRamp.
Yeah. So, November of last year, I was sitting in the bathroom brushing my teeth. And I'm telling you this part because I know exactly what I was doing the day I dreamed up Black Men in Tech. I was in a conversation with myself, and it was an internal, not even a battle, internal discussion about how do I go from just being significant or I'm sorry, how do I go from just being successful to being significant? Now, success to me is what we do in our day job, the titles, the things that are tangible that we can point to and say, we did this, right? But I was more focused on the legacy, right? So how do we create this legacy where people that look like us, Black men, knew that there was an outlet in tech where they can capitalize on and win, right? And realize that, tech is not just a space for individuals with engineering degrees, but you can do tech and then you realize tech is in anything. Think about this. Uh, uh, Michael Bennett and Martellus Bennett, they wrote a book called Making White People Uncomfortable. In the forward, right, I believe it was Martellus that shared the whole story um about representation. And he talked about it as if it was a character. Like he was like Superman, Batman, and all the other heroes, didn't come to his neighborhood to save a damsel in distress, never showed up, in this neighborhood, but this is what we grew up with as far as television cartoons. And he was like, hell, Aquaman could have been famous because, they say black people don't know how to swim. So you want to level up, Aquaman, you should have came to our neighborhoods, right? And helped out our people. We didn't get a black superhero until Black Panther, right? And that was what's that, 16, 18, 2000, one of those years. But that was just fairly recently. So he started talking about the representation of black men or black people wanting to be athletes, right? Wanting to be rappers. And in my opinion, wanting to, do some things illegally, because that's who take care of their neighborhood. That's who they see in their neighborhood as success. I was talking to a group of middle school students, and they were saying that they wanted to play football. And I asked them, well, how much money is a lot of money? Because they need to take what we always say, hey, we need money to take care of our mama. You know what I'm saying? Because that's our first like real lady that we care about of a real individual, right? Because yeah, so I'm talking to these students and they're like, yeah, man, we need to make a lot of money to take care of our mama. I was like, okay, well, how much a lot of money? And they go, well, like $100,000. And I go, okay, depend on where they at in life, that may be a lot of money to them. I respect that. I say, you could do that in tech. You know how you play these video games? You can build these video games. You know how you on Instagram or on your social media, you can be on the back end doing the work. And I promise you can make more than that, without,
Throwing your
having
body
to grab,
away.
yeah, throwing your body away, your mind and that sort of thing. No, not to anybody who plays sports, man. I played semi-pro football for a few years, but
Respect.
it's that understanding and that representation. So I built Black Men in Tech because of that. And no, it's not exclusively for black men, because then we'll be just talking to ourselves there. We need the support of the community, right? I call it the neighborhood, right? We need our neighborhood support because even though you live in the same neighborhood, everyone's house isn't the same. So I built this concept called the neighborhood inside of Black Men in Tech because we need to support each other just flat out. Like it's about engaging and retaining a black male in the workplace. Zach, you know how it go, man. You see another black dude in an office at any headquarters, bro. You
Rare.
don't care. You don't care what he do. Like
It doesn't matter.
you get
And
excited.
I get excited. No, straight up. Look, man, I don't even meet many other black. So, right now, there is two other black men who do change management where I'm at, right?
Right.
And because of the way the company is set up, like we don't talk like that. But I'm excited, and
Yeah.
that's rare. But most times when I meet black men who like at work, they're typically not doing change. They're typically doing something like insecurity or
Right.
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 But guess what? I'm excited, and I try to learn a little bit just so I can have something to talk about.
Exactly, exactly, and that's the beautiful part about what we're building, man. Is that we're just building that neighborhood so people can engage and talk, make it comfortable for people, not black men, to come and join in the conversation and talk about the engagement piece. Like, and listen, I want to be very clear about this. Like, we are in no competition with any other conference or any other experience. What we want to do is be a part of the ecosystem that help change, right? The representation of the Black experience in tech. So shout out to Black is Tech, shout out to Afro Tech. We want to partner with you, right, in order to ensure that our message can go across holistically, right? Because I got the question a few times about, why Black men and why not Black women? They got it worse. Da, da, da. I said, listen, I want to be very clear. We don't play the oppression Olympics. All right. This isn't like who got it bad. We all got it bad. It's about how do we maximize the voice in which I understand it in order to make sure that the legacy of the Black men in the tech space is seen and heard. How do we provide access and education so that individuals are bought into the experience of the Black man? Right. And that's the thought process behind it. And we want to build that collectively. There's no one person in the ecosystem. It's all of us together, you know?
No, 100%. And the uncomfortable truth is that diversity, equity, and inclusion work historically has not ever centered Black men,
Talk about it.
right?
Talk about it.
And that's not to say, and you and I, we've talked off mic, right? It's like, that's not to say that I'm mad at the fact
Nope.
that, but it's just the truth of, like, we don't talk about the experience of cis presenting Black men
Right.
at work, and we don't talk about the things that they need, the ways that they feel harmed. And it's complex. I get it, because Black men do still benefit from and do participate in the patriarchy. So, like, I get
Yes.
that. I would never argue that. And every time I always provide this statement every time I even talk about Black men, because it's true. And I do believe, to your point, is that it's a worthy subject to engage and discuss explicitly and intentionally. And so, I'm excited about it. So, okay. So, and I hear your whole point around, not trying to compete with anybody. I think the truth of the matter is that all of this work in the spirit of what we're doing is so needed that really there could be 7 or 8 more Black men in techs and it
100%.
wouldn't be enough, right?
It
wouldn't be enough. It wouldn't be enough. There's so much work to be done.
Yep.
So to that end, what's the vision and goal? Like, let's just say, like, the next 6 to 12 months. Like, what are you excited about?
So Black Men in Tech, we're gonna have our virtual conference, June 19th, right? So that's the exciting piece. We got 35 dynamic speakers. We're gonna have a pre-con concert the night before that's gonna be virtually. And the most exciting about this, Zach, for me, is that it's all free. Right, like we have partnered with some amazing companies that's allowing us to give this free of charge to whomever wants to be a part, right? So the barrier to entry is super low. All you have to do is register, like easy, right? But what really excites me is our philanthropic effort. So the existence of Black Men in Tech is for this ability to help our community, our neighborhood, so that so much that we're launching this whole scholarship program where we're giving computers to high school students that's going into the collegiate arena and going to college, and then for individuals that are at the college level at a HBCU studying technology at some point, we're offering book scholarships of $1,000 to make sure that they do succeed in the classroom. And you will say, well, Ken, why book scholarships? And I'm going to tell you that students pay tuition, pay room and board, but they don't know if they're buying them books yet, because that's an extra expense, right? So I want to make sure that we do well in school. And that makes me excited, because when we talk about the significant piece, this is significant. This is a legacy that we're going to leave, Zach, behind. You involved, because I pulled you in. We're going to do some summits and stuff, but we're going to do this together. Like when the community show up, when the neighborhoods show up and support our students, our kids, and give them ways to make sure they succeed, man. That's the most powerful thing we can do. And that's what really is going to get me excited in that 6 months.
I love that, Cam. And I can't emphasize enough on how powerful it is that this is happening. That it's a group of men getting together. I don't like the phrase or the concept of change the narrative, because the narratives, they're going to exist because of white supremacy.
Right.
So it's not about changing the narrative. It's about leaning in and creating the narrative that you want.
Right.
And so I love this idea of legacy. You said it a few different times, and building something that's going to outlive you.
Right.
And very practically around the book scholarship, that's huge, because I remember like a silly young student.
Yep.
I
Yep.
bought all these books, and my books, I mean, I had so many books, and it wouldn't crack the book open, Cam. I'm like, no, why did I spend this money?
Right.
Right?
Right. Right.
Right?
Just to be a paperweight, just to be on the
Just to
desk.
be a paper, right, man. Like literally, that's all it was. And so I remember even, shoot, there's something to be said about teaching students how to buy the international version of them books,
Yep.
because some international versions are cheap. But if you
Yeah.
try to go to that college, if you try to go through that university bookstore,
Man.
they hitting you
Man.
over the head,
Of
90,
course. Of course.
150,
Yep.
$300. I'm like,
Yep.
bruh, like, and then they'd be like, oh, you got that version. That's not, but like I said, get
Well,
the
you need a key.
international.
You need a key code. What it is, like the serial code for these
You need
books
that
as well.
serial
Yeah.
code.
So you got to buy the new version. Can't even get the old version, and the new version costs twice as much.
And see, I
See?
didn't even know that. And the game has changed, because
Yeah.
I probably aged out, because I graduated back in 2011.
Yeah.
So like, and I graduated early, but still, like, I graduated
Yeah.
a decade ago, right? So, I just remember I was able to get the international version, and the content was the same, even if. But I remember one time, though, to your point, that the American version had like some type of CD in it, or had
Exactly.
some,
You need that. You
and
need
you
that.
need that. And as soon as, and they're like, oh, this is the part where you see, I was like, so I had to go do it. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
to your point though, man, I'm excited about the conference. I'm definitely excited about continuing to engage, man. And I
Yeah.
love Black Men in Tech. The branding, the visuals are great. So shout out to your team. Look, man, we could keep going all day, but let me do this. Before I let you go, any parting words and any shout outs you have?
Yeah, so Zach, I want to double back on one thing. Like, see what we're doing now and having a conversation, because we are in a relationship with each other as far as the job piece and the connection piece and how we connected. But this is why Black Men in Tech exists. Imagine us then turning around to 50 students, our scholars, and having the same conversation, right? And then bring in 10 other companies that's looking for interns, and we say, hey, our 50 is the best and brightest. What's up? We're the top 50 in the nation or in the world. You better come pull from us first, right? And all of it is not based on a monetary value, but based on the experience of the access and education that we can provide using our network, right? We're just sitting here laughing about our book experience. That could probably help a student next year realize, you know what, I'm glad I got the scholarship because I can hang out with Zach and Cam, and we shoot straight, have a beautiful conversation, then they can make sure I go to class and make sure I do well, right? So those little
100%.
things, right? Those little things are important. Um, for me, thought process, man. Parting words. I just want to leave listeners with this quick quote. And Zach, you tell me if you agree or not. If you don't, cut it. From the track. But I want to leave with the. Hey, listen, bro, we've been real. So
Yeah.
I came up with this thought process, and I want to make sure everyone hears it because I think it's essential to the work that we need to do for diversity and inclusion and belonging work moving forward. I say, a diversity strategy is only as good as the implementator's willingness to be uncomfortable and vulnerable at any given time. I say that because everybody's passionate about the word. Everyone want to do what's right. Everyone wants to, be that advocate and that ally until it makes you uncomfortable and vulnerable, and then you back off. But for a diversity strategy to really be successful in any given organization, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable, vulnerable at any given time because the work we do is the step beyond tolerance. So I wanted to leave parting thoughts on that, and because I think that's where we can do the most work and make the most gains in the next 5 years. Is that start with you? Start with you in your leadership. Start with you so that we can move this imaginary needle together. I will say another thing too: build community amongst different diversity officers and diversity practitioner throughout the country and the world. I'm a I I am a steward of this information. I'm not the owner. So I even though we may be at competing companies and all this other stuff, if I can help you with your diversity plan, I'm going to help you. Just like you can help me, right? That true pedagogy moment when we learn from each other. No one has the silver bullet. No one can figure it out on their own. But if we build our neighborhood, right? We build our community, we will be successful together. So those are the two things, man, that I'll leave you at the parting words. And for me, it's the shout out to you, Zach, for bringing me on, just to have this real talk, just having a good conversation with a brother. So thank you for the opportunity, and to my team, Black Men in Tech. Like, understand the people that's around this conference and this experience, all doing it for free. No one getting paid. They saw the vision in me as the creator. They saw the passion I had. They saw the purpose I was trying to do and the practicality behind it, and they stand it with me. Long nights, long weekends, man, but it's gonna be worth it in the end. So I really want to, appreciate the team for standing with me, to make it happen.
I love it. I love it. Cam, we appreciate you. Definitely consider you a friend of the show. Look forward to hearing more about the conference, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
I appreciate you, man. You have a good day.
All right, man. Peace. Living Corporate is brought to you by The Leadership Range, a podcast within the Living Corporate Network. Hosted by globally certified and Fortune 500 executive coach and leadership development expert Neil Edwards, The Leadership Range is focused on having real, raw, soulful, and accountable conversations about inclusive leadership, allyship, professional development. Every week is a new episode with new learning and new actions to take on to grow inclusively. Make sure you check out The Leadership Range everywhere you listen to podcasts. And we're back. Yo, shout out to Cam Ward. Shout out to LiveRamp, all the dope stuff they're doing over there. Shout out to Black Men in Tech. Listen, if you want to learn more about Black Men in Tech, you want to learn more about Cam, you want to learn more about LiveRamp, just check out the links in the show notes, okay? We're doing some really cool stuff. We're actually going to be promoting the Black Men in Tech conference over the next month. So make sure you tell folks about it, right? It's virtual. It's nothing, right? You ain't got to go nowhere, y'all. You ain't got to wear nothing crazy. You got to dress up. You ain't got to, worry about airline tickets or hotels. Just register, right? It's going to be great. It's going to be a great conference. Now listen, before we get up out of here, it's important that you hear me when I say prioritize yourself. Continue to do that. We're in this moment right now where, as the vaccine continues to be distributed, organizations are already looking to get their folks back on the road. And to a certain extent, I get that, but never feel like you need to rush out of the house if you don't feel safe, and certainly if you're not vaccinated. Life is short. There's this narrative around trying to get back to normal. And the truth of the matter is, we're not putting the genie back in the bottle. Like, we've experienced a little over a year of having an opportunity to reprioritize, assess, and think about what's important in our lives. And I, for one, am never, ever looking to going back to this grind culture of wearing myself down to nothing, chasing some imaginary carrot to win some prize, right? There is no gold at the end of that rainbow, right? The gold that you have is in your health, in your family, in your personal well-being. It's your responsibility to figure out how work fits into that, not how you fit into work, right? Prioritize yourself, prioritize your well-being. Shout out to the Living Corporate team. Make sure you give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, this has been Zach. You've been listening to Living Corporate. Peace.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin for Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.